What's up? Hey, hello, everyone. Wow. So today we are back going to be talking about Survivor Season 36, Episode 6 of Ghost Island. Another sad day here, I feel like. It was a very good boot strategy-wise, but I was very bummed to see James go. So my name is Rachel.
And I'm Alyssa, and I actually wasn't that bummed to see James go. I was worried that we were going to see, one of, the really big people go, and I feel like James only really started getting screen time this episode. So I was glad that,
what happened to the whole Morgan vote? I feel like that's where people started to like him.
I never liked him, but okay.
Damn, Alyssa. I don't know. I think I like James. I think we'll definitely talk about it when he gets voted out at the end of this episode. But I think he played for a good cause. I think the viewers from looking at comments on Reddit and stuff, a lot of viewers seem to really like James. And I really wanted to see James be the next Yule because he said in preseason stuff that he wanted to be the next Yule. So I was like, that'd be super cool. And he's a smart dude.
I also feel like Yule is such an underrated winner. So people saying "Oh, I want to be like Yule" is great to me.
Yeah, especially when everyone on preseason stuff are like, I want to be like Boston Rob or Russell Hantz. Think outside of the box maybe for those questionnaires. So I don't know. I thought it was a good episode. I think strategy wise, like I said, good boot. And I think so. We start seeing the tribe swap. Three people, I thought it was interesting when I rewatched the episode. The three people that talked during the original tribe swap when Jeff is talking to people or got a confessional during this time period were Michael, James, and Desiree. So I thought that was really interesting. Maybe foreshadowing, oh, this is the tribe that's going to tribal, and these are the three people that could be on the chopping block. So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting too, just because I feel like definitely with the people that we haven't seen as much, when they start getting screen time, that's when you get a little suspicious. Because you're like, you haven't shown up yet, so they're probably just giving you some time before you get booted. So
that means what? Chelsea will go home next week because she actually talked for more than 2 seconds this episode. But I feel like at least this season edits have been better, I guess. Maybe it's just because all the people that got voted out the past 3 weeks with Brendan and then Stephanie and now James, we have seen a lot of. So they're really pulling at the heartstrings, giving these people their whole backstory. Oh, blah, blah, blah. And then next episode, they're going to go home, which is sort of sucky. But I think the 2 to 3 tribes thing, Alyssa and I were talking about it last week, okay, 2 to 3 tribes, that's good. And then we were also thinking preseason that maybe they would have done it at 18 and done 666. So I don't know. I like 3 tribes. I think it's always more connections. It makes the merge more interesting, I think, in next 2 weeks, because you just know more people. There's more things that could happen. So I don't know. I'm sort of confused as to why people don't really like 3 tribes, because this is actually the first time since Samoa, season 19, that the season started out with 2 tribes of 10 split randomly, not even with a theme. So every season since 19 has had a theme or a returning player among the 8 or 9 people. So this is the first time. So I thought that was cool.
Yeah, I thought it was really cool too, and that actually was talked about at Tribal Council about the fact that their tribes were random as opposed to sorted, and I thought that was interesting. But we can talk more about that when we talk about Tribal Council, I guess. So.
Yeah, so I don't know. I feel like a lot of people this episode were really butthurt about 3 tribes. People are like, oh no, I hate 3 tribes. Let's keep it at 2. But I'm a fan of 3 tribes. Are you, Alyssa?
Yeah, I'm a fan of 3 tribes just because I do think it's a lot more interesting, because they were talking about oh, which lines are the ones that you're going to follow, the old ones or the new ones, or now the new ones. So I feel like at the merge, it's definitely going to be a lot more who's actually with who now, especially because there are some people that claim to be like, oh, those two are unbreakable or whatever. And so I think it's interesting to see, like, put them in situations where they might have to, like, do something that's against their best or their partner's best interest because it's in their best interest.
Yeah, that's why, like, I'm a fan of it. I think it is interesting, but now it makes it more confusing. I feel like for the viewer, like Donathan had his little talking thing, which was really funny. He gets bleeped out for saying the F word, which I thought was really funny. And like he's like, oh, blah blah blah, it's me and so, but there's also Dominic, who is like Navidi 2.0 kind of thing. So it's like interesting because now you have like the original, and then you have the 2.0, and now it's like what 3.0 for who knows who doesn't know who. So I think that would be really interesting come the merge. And I really like it, especially with this season, because we have technically seen a pagonging of the Malolo people. I think having more connections hopefully will prevent a straight pagonging and only Morgan being the only one of Navidi being voted out until all 10 of Malolos have been voted out, which I don't see happening, but
the Malolo tribe is cursed, and I'm really hoping that they're gonna have like a legit exorcism next episode, because that was one of my like favorite things from the next time on Survivor, because I was like, I want to see this curse end. And I thought it was really interesting because they were like, we're here to reverse curses, not to make new ones. And so I thought it was really interesting that there is like a Malolo curse.
Yeah, so crapped out of luck again, having a 3-2 numbers disadvantage on every tribe. If you just look solely on like original Navidi, original Malolo, it is technically a 3-2 on each tribe. So I think third tribe that we saw brand new is a really pretty green color. Sort of hard to pronounce, but it has Sebastian, Wendell, and Chris from original Navidi, and then Laurel and Jenna from original Malolo. But then you also have like, oh, Sebastian and Jenna know each other from the last tribe swap, and Wendell, Chris, and Laurel have been on a tribe together too. So I think that's just interesting right off the back. And I think this green tribe is the strongest tribe out of the three, so I don't see them losing a challenge before the merge.
Yeah, I also thought it was funny, like someone like called Sebastian Seabass like as like not a joke, and I was like, whoa, my mind is blown. And I guess like it's interesting to see like which players like have reputations even among the players that don't know them, because like some people were like, oh, I've waited so long to meet you, and I'm pretty sure that someone told Sebastian like, I can't believe I'm finally meeting you. I was like, that's interesting.
Yeah, I thought it was really funny that the nickname actually caught on from Dominic saying it the first episode and sort of being weird about it. So I thought that was cute. I think for Green Tribe, the swap was good for Jenna. I think, like I said, I don't see them losing, but say Green Tribe does lose next week. I don't think Jenna would be the one voted out if Green Tribe loses before the merge, because if the merge is at 13, we have one more week next week before the merge in 2 weeks. So I really don't think Jenna would be on the block. So I think she's got a good spot with the merge. I feel like Green Tribe would want to vote out strength in someone like Wendell or Chris right before the merge, because it seems like they wanted to vote James out because it's strength right before the merge. So I feel like one of the guys would go over, like Jenna.
Yeah, I feel like definitely as the merge is getting closer, people are starting to think about like the physical strength thing. And I would not be surprised if like one of the stronger guys went home next week instead of like a girl.
No, yeah, that's how I feel like it would go, hopefully next week. I thought it was cute. Wendell brought the shell for Sebastian. So it's sort of like, okay, yeah, the cute small things matter in the game, because like Sebastian said in his confessional, which I'm also sort of sad we didn't get a feeling like the shell smelled like really bad, but it wasn't like super cute and funny. But I don't know. I thought that was like a good connection, and I'm hoping maybe like, oh, we'll see something with it play out because they mentioned it for like 2 minutes on this episode. So maybe it'll come back and be like, oh, Sebastian doesn't want to vote Wendell out because he brought him the shell kind of thing.
Or it could just be showing that like Survivor is like a real game with real people. Because I feel like sometimes people get to the point where they're like, oh, Survivor's just TV. Where it's like, even though like we analyze Survivor like as part of our like fun time, wow, such nerds. But like even though we like analyze Survivor, it's like sometimes I have to stop and think to myself, like, this is a real person we're talking about. So I think it might be an attempt to like humanize them, but I also wouldn't be surprised if it ended up coming back.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like, which is also why with the whole Chris edit, I think it's very interesting. So even in this episode, they talk about the Dominic-Chris feud. I think this feud definitely has to play out at the merge. They have mentioned it every single episode so far this season, and nothing has happened with it. And I think just the Chris edit is so weird because like last week Alyssa and I were talking and we were like, oh, in last week's podcast we were like, oh, we're starting to like Chris, blah blah blah, like Chris is a likable guy. But now this week it's like everyone is pissed off by Chris. Chris hasn't even been to tribal council yet.
The thing about Chris is that, like, I was literally laughing the entire time he was on screen because he was like, oh, yeah, people can't be thinking this, and this about me. And then it, like, cuts the people talking about how he's so lazy and how everyone just smiles and nods at him. And I'm like, oh, it was just a really funny scene. I feel like just because Chris is so oblivious. So oblivious.
Like, that's why I'm just so confused. I mean, everyone is like, okay, I don't like Chris, but I will live with him and smile and nod because, you know, Chris hasn't gone to tribal council yet. So that's amazing, I feel like, for a season. And then he's such a strong dude. So yes, he's like, if he's winning, you just got to put up with it because if you're winning and he's winning, you're not going to go to tribal. So I feel like you'd rather have an annoying person who wins you immunity challenges versus maybe going to tribal continuously.
Yeah, I'm also really interested to see like if anyone else remembers that Chris hasn't gone to tribal yet, because I feel like that might be one of those things where they only realize it like as they're stepping into tribal and just like Chris pick up a torch. Like that'll be interesting.
Yeah. And I mean, I think maybe Chris is so athletic. Every single tribe that he's been on has had that winning streak. So maybe it's a Chris thing and he's the good luck, super athletic, winning you all immunity. Or like, I don't know what the other option would be, but I feel like Chris maybe could be like a Joe Anglim come the merge kind of thing. Because like, second chance, Joe didn't go to tribal until the merge. So I feel like Chris, he's super athletic. I feel like he could totally dominate in the individual immunity part of the game.
Yeah, I think he could too. And I also think it's interesting because like Chris acts like such a jock that I feel like people like don't take him seriously as a jock, if that makes sense.
Yeah, like Laura was like, oh, model, jock, motivational speaker, whatever. Like, I really don't care what you do kind of thing.
Yeah, I was just like, I'm not sure if they're taking his like athletic ability seriously enough just because he doesn't fit like the stereotype.
Yeah, and I feel like definitely with the whole Chris being very athletic and good at challenges, and so if he does make the merge, I think he will make the merge without going to tribal council. I don't see Green losing next week. And so I think with that, with him at the merge, and if he does like go on an individual immunity streak, and then Dominic is safe at the first tribal, definitely the first tribal because he's safe at 13 with the legacy advantage. And then he also has the hidden immunity idol. And then if Chris is winning immunities, we'll never see the Chris Dominic feud play out because they're both going to be safe for at least, Dominic is safe for at least 2 tribals and definitely the first merge episode. So this could be like maybe idled out, legacy advantage out of someone like Chelsea.
Yeah. I'm still just really upset that like Chris and Dominic have had this whole like storyline where they're like at each other's throats, but they don't do anything about it. Because I feel like by the time one of them actually votes the other out, it's just going to be like, thank God that one of them's gone.
Yeah, like I don't understand. So Chris basically, for the entire green tribe that we see, he gets 10 minutes of him talking about himself. And then going on to purple, we see Dominic literally get the entire time talking about, or like narrating the entire purple tribe's TV scenes this episode. So purple is Bradley, Dominic, Chelsea from original Navidi, and then Libby and Donathan from original Malolo. Yeah, it's weird. Chris and Dominic both talked a lot this episode, I feel like.
Yeah, I feel like Chris and Dominic, like they talked a lot to continue setting up their feud, but the more they talk, the more I feel like Chris is going to be the one that loses. But I also feel like it's going to be Chris going out and then Dominic immediately going out after. Because I feel like this is one of the things that we saw a lot in Second Chances, where it's like the players have like this like white whale and it's like the thing they need to do. And then as soon as they did that thing they needed to do, they like flopped over. And like they were the next vote out. And so I feel like getting Chris out is going to be Dominic's like white whale. And then he's going to like get Chris out, but then he's immediately going to get voted out too.
Yeah, I definitely can see that, especially because when you're so pigeonholed on, oh, I need this one person out, once they're out, you have no focus because you're so blinded by wanting to get this one person out. And I feel like because Dominic has talked to everyone about, oh, having a fake idol, having a real idol, once he brings out that idol, and maybe Dominic doesn't even play the legacy advantage at 13, we don't know, then he'll have it for 6 if he's still around, or he might get voted out with it and pass it on. And I don't know, I feel like people don't really take Dominic and Chris too seriously with their feud. So I think they would just be like, okay, he's expendable. Once Chris goes, let's vote Dominic out, because that's all they talk about, it seems like, is the feud.
Yeah, that's like why I'm kind of getting the vibe that they're going to end up like one going after the other, because it's like, or one being voted out immediately followed by the other one, just because that is their only storyline. And I feel like whenever your Survivor storyline is like tied to another person that much, like that's more getting into like Edgic type stuff. But like if your Survivor storyline surrounds like one person or one thing, I feel like that's when you get like in trouble as far as getting voted out.
Yeah, so
and like you said, they don't take them seriously. So
no, yeah, I totally agree. I feel like come the merge, we'll see the narration of the Chris Dominic feud like happening, but I feel like it's going to be one of their alliance members that is going to take the fall and be the one voted out and be the king or queen of Ponderosa. Because of the feud, it's going to cause casualties to their armies or alliances or just whoever is like in the wrong place at the wrong time, I feel like is something that could occur. Also, Dominic says that Libby is a devil in an angel's costume. I thought this was super cute. And he also gives her credits of being Parvati 2.0, which I was like, wow, that is some high praise for Libby.
I thought it was interesting just because, like, I personally cannot remember anything that, like, I could point and be like, oh, that's Libby being Parvati 2.0. So, like, I also wonder, like, how much, when people say like, oh, I want to be like Parvati, like how much they actually want to be like Parvati and how much they want to be like the idea of Parvati. Because I feel like sometimes like with the big Survivor players, like the ones we talked about earlier, like Parvati and Boston Rob and Russell, like people don't really like think about how they played the game. They just think of like a couple buzzwords. Like they're like, oh, Russell was really chaotic and he was willing to do whatever it took. And they'll be like, oh, Boston Rob was super strategic and oh, Parvati was super flirty. When it's like, really, I feel like their games have a lot more nuance than that. So I like, don't know. I wonder if that was like an accurate assessment or not.
Yeah, I mean, I could definitely see it with Libby. I think a lot of people are getting the whole like, oh, Libby's like super cute, but she's willing to slit your throat kind of thing from the Morgan vote out episode. So maybe Alyssa with that and James, you'll watch and see. But I feel like a lot of people started to see Libby because like that was the second episode, technically the third, the one right after the premiere when Morgan got voted out, and Libby actually got screen time. She didn't get any screen time in the premiere, and then in that episode, because she was willing to like, oh, vote Morgan out kind of thing, and she was smiling while like voting her friend Morgan out. I feel like so a lot of people were like, oh, like she's willing to stab you while voting you out kind of thing. So I feel like that's where Dominic and maybe other people are getting the whole like, oh, Libby's cute, but she's dangerous.
Mm-hmm. I guess I just did not pay enough attention in that episode.
Yeah, maybe because you didn't remember James either. I think Purple, this tribe, will go to Tribal Council next week. I think Malolo, hopefully they can't lose again. So I'm hoping Purple goes. And I think Dominic could be the swing vote between Libby and Bradley. But then I think ultimately maybe Libby gets voted out next week.
I think Bradley goes next week if that's the situation that ends up happening.
See, yeah, I was torn when I was writing this. I was like, okay, Libby, like cute. Parvati 2.0, dangerous. Bradley, smart, maybe annoying, cocky, arrogant. So then I was like, okay, would you rather vote out the person who's obviously like Libby, obviously dangerous, versus Bradley, who is like thinks very highly of himself? Maybe you keep him around because he's annoying and you don't think he'll win. So it really depends, I feel like, on Purple Tribe if they dislike Bradley enough to vote him out versus keeping Libby. Also thinking if you vote out a Navidi, so if Dominic and Chelsea vote out Bradley, their own Navidi, right before the merge, after you see James and Malolo go home this time, I feel like you can't vote out a Navidi person right before the merge or else you'll be branded as a traitor when everyone else was voting Malolo people the entire time.
I don't know. I feel like part of it is too, like you said, how much Bradley like annoys them. And from what like I got from like the like next time on Survivor, he seemed like he must have done something really annoying. Just because like I feel like Dominic, he can get worked up pretty easily, but I also feel like he's like so intent on hating Chris that he would not switch like to hating Bradley for no reason. So that's my thought.
I think if Purple is going to Tribal, and if it is like, I think they wouldn't vote Chelsea out. I don't think Donathan's going home next week. So I'm really like, it's going to be split between Libby and Bradley. I guess it really does depend how annoying Bradley is versus wanting to get like the cute Libby voted out of the game. And I think, I don't know, I would go Libby, honestly.
I don't know because I feel like Bradley also like he's done some strategic stuff.
Yeah, I think if you're aligned with Bradley, Bradley likes you, you're in Bradley's corner, then you keep him around because he is maybe annoying and you know he might not get he won't win the jury vote at the end, just plain and simple like that. Then you keep him around because he's strategic. He can help you strategize. And then he will always be maybe like the target of the other side because they want to vote him out because he rubs them the wrong way. So I think that's what Kellen has aligned herself very well, because I feel like with the Kellen-Bradley alliance, Bradley is always going to be the person maybe everyone else wants to vote out over voting Kellen out, because Kellen has the social game versus Bradley doesn't really have the social game, and he's seen more of like the leader of whatever alliance they're going to have.
Yeah, I feel like definitely like keep Bradley if you're his ally, but at the same time, if you're not his ally, there's the double dose of he's a strategic threat and he's also really annoying.
Yeah, so I think, yeah, that's the thing. If you're aligned with him, keep him, because you can win against him at the end as long as you're not annoying and you have the social game. And otherwise, I think Libby would be the way to go if you're. And I think Bradley has said like, oh, me and Dom are super tight, so Bradley has to do something very, very bad to get Dominic to flip on him next week, I feel like.
Yeah.
Yikes. Maybe I hope. I want to see this play out. I think Purple Tribe is probably the most interesting tribe that we saw out of the tribe swap. I think Green and Orange aren't as interesting. So going into the immunity challenge, I really like this challenge. I thought it was, I think, the coolest one this season. Usually I don't really like the blindfolded challenges because like people get hurt and stuff, but this one, they didn't have all those big blocks for people to get hurt, and you still got your little dose of people hurting themselves. So I really liked it. I was stressed until the end.
Yeah, I think the thing, like, I wish that we had, okay, normally I don't laugh when people run into stuff, but I feel like the fact that it wasn't, like, the super big, like, blocks and stuff made it funnier, because like people were like slamming into the poles as they tried to crawl under them. Like, this was a funny challenge. Like, I feel like this episode in general was like funny and I liked it.
Yeah, I really liked also in the challenge they had like digging for stuff and like you said, crawling under the pole, digging through the little the weird things. So I really like that, because usually with these challenges it's just like, oh, walk, pick up, turn right, pick up the big block. But now it's like dig in some, like you don't even know what you're digging in. And like I thought that was really cool. So we saw Desiree, Dominic, and Wendell be the callers. The bag fight was funny when Michael and Chelsea were fighting for the bag. I thought that was very funny. Yeah, Desiree had a huge lead going into the puzzle. Wendell leaves a bag behind, and then he has to go and run and get it. And at this part, I was sort of confused, because if you leave a bag behind, shouldn't you have to bring your entire like team back to go get the bag? So I thought that was a little like, but I'm glad for Wendell pulled out first place.
Yeah, I was like seriously stressing over Wendell for getting the bag, because I'm kind of glad that they didn't make him take everyone back, though, because I feel like that definitely would have caused them to lose, just because they took so long. Just like watching, I was just so baffled by the fact that even when they were literally being led by the hand by someone who could see, some of these people were like shuffling along. I was like,
yeah, I think like Desiree's like, I'm not gonna let you run into anything, like walk faster. And then Dominic, since they were in last place at the time when they're walking over, he was like trying to go fast, and Bradley was like, slow down. And then Dominic was like, you dude, we're at the like last place, we have to go faster. Like, you're walking, and Dominic isn't going to let you bonk into things. Maybe when you're crawling that can be slower, but if you're just walking, yes, you can be careful. But yeah, I think definitely when you're in last place trying to catch up time, you gotta take some risks. And I was like, the puzzle was very stressful, I feel like. I am very happy Wendell and Dominic's team won. I mean, I don't know. I guess it was very cool to see like a very big upset, because, you know, the underdog, I wanted to see them beat the people in first place. So then you have those sad reactions.
I don't know. I wanted Lolo to win so bad. Just because, like, I was just like, please end the curse. But I feel like one of the things that annoyed me was I feel like Desiree was actually giving, like, pretty, like, good directions. Like, she was like, find the triangle and match the triangle. And it's like, it shouldn't be that hard.
So, yeah, I think that's why the challenge is so interesting, because you definitely need the person who's good at speaking loud, good at directions and communication as your shatter person. And they also have to be good at puzzles. So maybe like with the Dominic and Wendell team, definitely I feel like they're good at puzzles. We've seen Dominic on the puzzle part of challenges before. I'm not sure if we've seen Wendell on the puzzle, but we also hear Jeff say like, oh, Desiree was on the puzzle before and she lost it for her tribe then, and now you're giving her another puzzle to do. Maybe that's not the best idea if your best puzzle person isn't doing that, especially blindfolded. I feel like it's definitely harder because you have to like put your words and thoughts into quantifiable actions.
Yeah, I didn't realize that they were going to be blindfolded when they did the puzzle. Like, I thought they were going to be able to take their blindfolds off, and I was just like, oh my god. But I also feel like Jeff saying that out loud, like, kind of like put the thought in her head, and then it's like, as soon as you get those subconscious thoughts, like, oh, I'm not going to be able to do it, that's when everything goes to hell.
Yeah. I feel like you can't go to Harvard and like not be smart. So I feel like maybe he would be good also. And like, yeah, that's why I don't know. It was sort of shitty, I feel like, because yes, we see Desiree basically lose this big lead for her team, and then she's not the one voted out, which yes, it is Survivor, but then I was sort of like, ah, oh, this is so angering.
Yeah. I feel like one of the things is, though, like, Desiree was also the reason they got such a big lead in the first place. And I feel like for me, it's more frustrating when it's like, oh, like the people who do the physical work, like, get a really, really big lead and then the puzzle makers blow it. But it's like Desiree was like leading them all really well in like the like gathering challenge. And then like, I feel like it's one of those things where like, it definitely was a situation where she went from the hero to the GOAT literally like within the span of the challenge.
Yeah, so I feel like maybe don't put her on puzzles next time. Stick Kellen and Michael in there because they voted out James. Great. So I think with Orange Tribe, it's the people on the tribe are Kellen, Desiree, Angela, James, and Michael. And Angela, maybe a swing vote. We've saw it throughout the episode. Maybe, oh, like she'd be a swing, the kind of thing. I think bad swap for James and Michael. Again, being stuck with someone like Kellen, who is very gung-ho about the whole Navidi Strong thing. I think sort of short end of the stick for James and Michael, and that's what we saw tonight.
Yeah, I feel like, yeah, I thought it was interesting because at Tribal, someone, I think it was James, said like, oh, we don't bleed our tribe colors, because it's like, unlike with a lot of the things, with a lot of the like themed episodes, is like you're not, or themed seasons, you're not together because you all have like certain kinds of jobs, or because you're all like this or this. It's just literally randomly put together. So I don't know. I thought that was interesting just because, like, theoretically it doesn't make sense, but at the same time, it does make sense. Like, if you make a strong connection, you shouldn't try to, like, you shouldn't break it apart just because you can, you know?
Yeah, I think, like I said, this is a random, like James said too at Tribal Council, this is all random. Like you're saying, it's not brain, brawn, beauty, and you're all brawn, so you have to stick together. This is literally like you were placed on a random tribe and you were lucky enough to get on Survivor and you're on orange or purple, and that's the way the cards fell. And with Tribal Council, I really thought it would be a split vote Desiree James, with Angela flipping on Navidi because of what happened at the Morgan vote out. I was very surprised at Tribal. I was very angry until like thinking about it. Then I was like, okay, this actually is a very, very good game move for Kellen and her alliance and Michael.
Yeah, I feel like it's a good game move for everyone except Angela. Like, I'm still kind of puzzled as to why she flipped. Just because, like, she had that whole thing about, like, oh, I was betrayed. And I was like, okay. But then, like, I was just confused. I feel like I was waiting to hear the rest of the story as to why she chose one over the other. So I'm hoping next week when we get the, aftermath of this tribal, we'll hear her say like, this is why I ended up going or voting against James for the time being. So
I really thought Angela would flip because she was super, super angry at Navidi for trying to vote her out at the Morgan vote out. So I was like, why would she want to vote with them? But then I was thinking, okay, if Angela votes against Desiree, votes out a Navidi, and keeps a Malolo, she's basically betraying the Navidi people. And once the merge comes, Malolo is already down in numbers. So there's no real reason, I felt like, to go and flip on Navidi and vote for Desiree to go and keep James around, because of the whole numbers advantage come the merge. Yes, I feel like Angela will still be at the bottom at the merge with purple, but at least she'll be 10 out of 10 rather than maybe like 12 or 13. So I think her going to where the numbers are at definitely plays. I think Angela will go further because she's not going with the Malolos, who come merge are maybe going to have like 4 people left. Why would you flip and go with a group that has no numbers come the merge? So I think Kellen would gladfully, Chris would gladfully drag Angela to the end because she is an easy person that will just vote with you.
Yeah, I feel like she has the potential to be like a really good goat too, because it's like she doesn't really have any game moves under her belt. Like all of her moves are just like, basically, I feel like mostly she just got betrayed by people, which like sucks for her, but at the same time, like it's good for whoever like brings you to the end with them, because it's like you can be like, Angela is only here because I wanted her to be. So
yeah, I feel like Angela could say like, oh, I had strategy of voting James out because I wanted to go with the numbers kind of thing. But then I feel like a lot of people will just disregard that and be like, no, that was an easy vote. You should have flipped kind of thing. That would have been the move rather than staying with your people, like isn't considered a move. I feel like that's how it will be swung if she does make final tribal. And yeah, I think even on the bottom of Navidi, she'll make it further than she would have gone if she went with James and like the Malolo group that is already very, very dwindled. And I think if you were Michael in this boat, same reasoning. You've been with Kellen for the past few votes, and Michael just needs to make it one more vote after this, and then he makes the merge, and then it's a whole new slate. And I feel like, you know, vote out James, sure, because he has someone like Kellen to work with. And I think Kellen and Bradley do want to work with Michael. So I feel like if Orange does go to tribal next week, I feel like I would want to vote Angela out because she is the loose cannon. I would keep Michael around. Because is anywhere else to turn to, because you voted out all of his alliance members, so he's basically going to have to work with you. And Angela is sort of like every which way. I would vote her out.
yeah, I think I would keep Angela just because like I feel like she's one of those people where it's like you can vote her out whenever, if you want to, and if like you keep her for long enough, you can just keep her as a GOAT. Whereas like Michael, I feel like there's a lot of the players this season like haven't been consistently strategic, but a lot of them have proven they can be strategic when they want to be. Like Michael's whole like, oh, this has the power to save two people thing. Like if he had done that better, then the game could have been totally different, you know? So
yeah, I feel like similar to the Bradley thing that we're talking about versus Bradley or Libby going home. I think if Orange goes home, Michael versus Angela thing, and it's really who is aligned with, who can you trust more, is the person that will stay in the game versus the person that's going to go. Because you don't want to keep people in the game who aren't going to work for you, even if they are like a good GOAT or something like that. If they are willing to work for you, like good, keep them around. Keep Bradley around because he's willing to work for you. He's smart, but he's annoying. Like keep him around. Keep Michael around maybe because he has nowhere else to go and he's willing to work with you. But I think Angela makes the merge. I feel like Purple's going to Tribal next week.
Yeah, I feel like Purple definitely is going to Tribal, and I'm going to say that the reason that Orange does not go to Tribal is because they burned the Malolo flag. I'm saying exorcisms work. I actually don't have any proof for that. I've never performed an exorcism, but
so James goes home this episode bummed out. I was reading a bunch of the articles, like exit interview articles from James, and I think it was very, very interesting. He was saying, like, he was blindsided by the vote. He didn't think it would be all four of everyone else voting for him. He thought maybe there would be the Angela flip, and I was like, okay, yes, that is foreseeable. And he was thinking, because he said in exit interviews, he was thinking because it was Ghost Island, you're seeing these idols and stuff from past seasons. He was thinking he would remake the Eliza stick idol and like just like find a stick and carve a face into it and pretend it's an idol. And I think like if he did that, if he had the more like gut feelings that Angela wasn't going to flip and Michael was going to vote for him, if he had that stick idol and told people about it, I think that would be that'd be so good. And I think we could have very well have seen Michael or Angela go home this episode.
I think it's interesting too because the fact that the stick idol is a thing is so good for the players, and I'm so upset. Yeah, literally just a stick. Like it's the easiest thing to fake. Like I think Dominic was talking about like, oh, you should have seen my fake idol was just a seashell on a string, and I was like, you could have made the fucking stick. Like you had this shot and you blew it.
I am really hoping, because maybe James told someone, I'm gonna make a fake stick idol, then maybe someone will have a real stick idol, and then they both will try and then Brendan, Stephanie, James. I don't know. Next week, well, maybe like, but then it's like you want the good like people that you like to go home because then it makes the episode more interesting versus a dud going home. It's sort of like a bland episode, I feel like.
Yeah, I feel like it's one of those things where it's like a double-sided sword where it's like you really want the good people to get knocked off because then it's like, oh wow, this episode was actually worth watching, but at the same time you don't want your people to go home.
Yikes. I think right now, because Brendan was my winner pick, alas, he's gone, I could definitely see a Kellen, Michael, Bradley final three with Michael getting the votes and then Kellen being second place. I feel like because Michael has the whole thing. Like I've been to every single tribal council besides the Morgan vote out. I think people would respect that. So he's going to be going to a lot of tribal councils, and I think that Bradley would be that season. It depends, I think. It'd be a toss-up between Kellen and Michael. I think if Kellen is able to play it correctly, that she has that good social game, she's friendly with everyone, but then she needs to have that boundary where she's going to cut them and vote them out of the game. So if she's able to play that right, I think she could have the upper hand over Michael. But if people are butthurt about, like, oh, my girl Kellen, because I think she'll vote Desiree out come time, and Desiree, she might be super butthurt about it. So that's where I see Michael having the upper hand.
I don't know. My winner pick is Desiree, and she's still in the game. So I'm just going to hope for a final 3 that includes Desiree, that she can somehow win. So, yeah.
Yes. So I guess that is this episode. Let us know what you guys thought down in the comments below. Also, if you haven't seen, you should definitely check out our 21 Flags video that we posted on Tuesday. We teach you all another one of those cool DIY challenges where you can do it at home and basically learn Survivor immunity and reward challenges, which we thought was super cool. So you should definitely check that out.
Yeah, so like Rachel said, if you have any thoughts, put them down in the comments below. Until then, we'll see you guys next week.
Yeah. Bye.